I'm Allie Buchman with the Potomac Bead Company, and I am going to make some post earrings for you today. I'm calling these the Princess Post. They look like a princess cut, square cut diamond to me. So we're calling them the Princess Post. And what they are is a chaton in the middle with some 15-0 seed beads around them, kind of bezel setting them, and then we'll attach the ear wire to it and kind of seam it up. For this video, if you do need any of the supplies, we'll put a little drop down here on the left-hand side. That will drop down and you can get links to all the different materials if you do want to purchase from me online, or you can purchase at your local Potomac Bead Company store. These Princess Post earrings are using posts, and they're using what are called pad posts or flat posts. And I'm going to be using, for the example in the video, some 6mm gold posts here. And you really just need two pairs, one for each earring. You can use sterling silver, you can use a 4mm pad post, because we're making it really tight around the back. So if you want to use plated, you want to use stainless steel, gold plated, sterling silver, anything from a 6 down to a 4mm for that flat back post will work. If you have the curved back post that it has a little cup on it, that will work as well. It's just going to sit a little bit differently on the sides. For the actual portion of it that looks like the crystal here, I've used that Aqua Bohemia in the Chaton here. That's the example. I'm going to be using the Chaton in the Vitral Medium, which is a kind of fun iridescency multicolored crystal. You're really only seeing the center of the crystal, so you can make them look really different by using different colors of seed beads. So for the actual princess posts here, you will need 2 of the Chatons. If you're not familiar with the Chatons, the size that I'll be using is the SS39, which is the stone size, and it's approximately 8.3mm in size that we'll be working with. In addition to that, we're holding it all together with some 15-0 seed beads. I've chosen to use 2 colors of 15-0s. You could use 1 color if you want, but I've chosen to use 2. Here on the example piece, I used the Toho 15-0s in that starlight color, and then the Crystal Labrador Full Miyuki 15-0s in that silver color to make them a mixed metal. I've been wearing them a lot in the last couple days since I've made them. I'm going to switch to using basically the gold tone and take the silver out of it with my pad posts, and then also using the Miyuki galvanized gold color. And then I'm also going to use a Miyuki 15-0 in the Duracoat silver lined persimmon. I used this on one of the other videos recently too. I love this soft pink color, and I think it'll bring out the pink that is in the design as well. So we'll kind of switch out the colors that we're using so you can keep track of the different designs using both the galvanized 15-0 as well as that Duracoat silver lined. We are going to be working and making 2 earrings. We're going to be making obviously one at a time. And to make the first one, we're going to use about 4 feet of thread. And if you want to cut about 6 feet, you'll have enough to do both of your earrings. Because they are small, they don't use a ton of thread, but they use more than you may think that you're going to be using. To do the design, we are starting out with our 15-0, so go ahead and cut your piece of your 4 feet of your beading thread. Get that on the needle, and I forgot to mention we are using a size 12 needle, and I'm using some 0.006 wildfire beading thread. I'm using the green color because of the colors of beads that I've chosen. I used white here in my previous example. Go ahead and get your 4 feet of your green thread onto your size 12 needle and pour out a little pile of each of your crystals. Or I'm sorry, each of your seed beads rather. So a couple things that I forgot to mention is that I like to have a pair of my needle nose pliers handy. That helps to flatten out the thread once I cut it with my Thread Zap 2 or Thread Zap Ultra, or you can use a Beadonit thread cutter or cord cutter, either one works, but it's a thread burner. And I like to flatten out that wildfire beading thread before I actually put it through the needle. I'm also working on a Beadonit board here, and that helps to give a nice workable surface. It's nice and flat, it's nice and bright as well, and the beads kind of stand up on it. So if you do have a nice workable surface, either a bead mat or a bead board is what you'll want to use to kind of lift those beads up a little bit. We're going to be starting with our back section here. And you can see those gold beads right along the edge here. We have 5 beads per basically squared piece. So we're going to end up putting on 20 beads altogether. I'm actually going to be starting here with my pink beads rather than my gold beads. I'll do 2 sets of pink and then finish up with some gold. Actually, we'll do a pink, gold, pink, so that way we'll finish with the pink in the front. To get started, I have my 4 feet of my thread, and I'm just going to hold the end of the thread here, and with my right hand pick up 20 beads of the 20 beads of the pink color here, that persimmon. And what you want to do is think of them in groups of 5. So I have on my 5 beads, let those drop, pick up 5 more. Again, let those drop. So we're doing 4 sets of 5. And last set of 5 here. Once you have all 20 beads on, we're going to let those drop back down to where I'm holding with my finger. And I'm going to simply tie a knot. If you wanted to use a stop bead, you could use a stop bead as well. I'm tying a knot because that's going to be where the end thread then connects to. And I don't need this to open up at all, so I'm fine with my knot. I'm going to make my knot and then pull it nice and tight so that way that knot won't escape. Once you have that pulled nice and tight, we're going to basically create our squared effect by adding in our 7 additional seed beads to make our little triangles here right above and to create our little bezel for our chaton. My needle and thread, I'm going to sew through the first 5 beads after my knot there. So you want to count 5 beads, take your needle through those 5 beads, pick up 7 of your gold beads, and then sew back through those 5 that you just sewed through. So we're basically creating kind of it in the round. So I sewed through those 5, added 7 gold, and sewing back through those 5 in the same direction, which is away from that knot. That creates a little loop on the side of those 5, and that creates my first basically nice straight edge. With my needle then coming out of those first 5 seed beads, I'm going to sew through an additional 5 of that baseline. And after I'm through 5, my needle will come out, holding that piece kind of pinching between my fingers. I'll add 7 more of the gold beads. Make sure you have on 7. Sew back through those 5 beads again. Again, those 7 then will kind of hang off to the side there. You're almost creating like a flower or a floral design. Flipping over then for our 3rd time here, sew down the 5 beads. That's going to create our 3rd edge. Add the 7 beads and sew back through those 5. Again, you're coming up to your knot and you should have 5 beads left. Sew through those last 5 beads, making sure to catch them all. Sometimes next to the needle it's hard to bring the thread out, so you might have to kind of separate those a little bit. Once you're out through those 5, again we do our set of 7. So back through those 5 again and out. That gets us our first little grouping here where we have, I'm going to pull tight so that thread kind of pulls up tightly. That gives us our first grouping here where we have those 4 sides now with those 7 beads sitting right on top. Now that we have those 4 groups of 7, I'm going to take my needle back up through the last group of 7 that I did and come out the 4th bead in line. So your thread came back out through the last group of 5 of your pink beads and then going up 4 of the gold with your needle coming out of that 4th bead. This is going to create a point here with those 4 beads, and at the entrance basically of each of those 4th beads, you can see I'm pulling up, so there's 1, 2, 3, and there's that 4th bead. We're going to add 3 of our pink beads. So I'm adding 3 of that persimmon. Once I have 3 of the persimmon on, I'm going over to the next grouping here of 7, counting up to the 4th, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and adding in those 3 beads between the 4 set. Those 4 then are going to kind of hang out there, and you start to actually have some curvature happen where it's actually sitting in and doming a little bit. That's creating our bezel. 3 more of the persimmon go on, count up to 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4 of that next gold one. And make sure that that group of 3 there is always staying to the top and not kind of tucking underneath. 1 more group of 3, and over to the next 4th bead. Pull that little tail downward so it's out of the way. And as I pull, you can see it's kind of creating a little cupping effect. Before we add our 4th set of 3 in, we're going to drop our chaton into place and kind of hold it in there till I add my last group of 3. Adding my 3 pink beads, I'm going to go then over to that first group of my 7 seed beads and sew through that first bead that my thread was coming out of when I started to add my groups of 3. Pushing the chaton kind of into place there. You can see it kind of pops to the side. Push it down, and that'll fit it inside your little casing there. To tighten it up, we're going to go back through all of those groups of 3 seed beads, as well as that 4th gold bead. So I'm sewing back through everything that we just added, and that's going to tighten up that chaton. Once I sew through all of these, you'll be able to see how much tighter it makes it and how much more the chaton will stay in place. If you do get to a point where you have a little bit of tension, just grab your pliers, kind of wiggle back and forth, and pull the thread through. So you can see the chaton still kind of wants to pop out there. Push it back in, and then give a nice tight pull, forcing those beads of 3 to stay towards the top. You can see I'm using a fair amount of tension right there to get those beads to lay nicely. I'm almost through adding in the thread, kind of doubling back through here. And now we're at a point where that chaton will not pop out on us. So we have the chaton really pinched in there in that group of 4. And you can see that triangle effect going on with the gold beads here. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew down and get ready. You can see the chaton has a really pointed back. To take care of that really pointed back, we're going to be adding extra seed beads and kind of building it up to create another bezel along the back in order to hold our padded post. Once I'm coming out of one of my gold beads here, I need to get to that baseline again to build up the back so that way the chaton is not poking out. To do so, my needle is on the side coming out of one of those 11-0 seed beads, and I'm going to go down the 3 gold seed beads right along that edge. That's going to take me back next to my pink beads. For the pink beads, I'm going to sew through my pink beads here, so that I'm going through 4 of the pink beads, coming out right before that 5th bead. If you need to, again, you can kind of do a little bit of wiggling with your needle and pull it through. Once we're out that 3rd bead, or that fourth bead rather, and in between the fourth and the fifth, we're going to go ahead and add in 3 more seed beads in our gold color. 3 seed beads in gold get added, and then we're going to go back through the 3 seed beads from this baseline. So I'm coming out the fourth bead there between the fourth and fifth. I'm going to go back through beads 2, 3, and 4. If you need to, you can kind of turn it to the side in order to get your thread and needle in there. Once I'm through beads 1, 2, and 3, I'm also going to continue right out the corner to bead 5. So my needle will be exiting right there at the end of this first row of my group of 5 15s in that pink color. After exiting those 5 beads, the 3 gold beads are just going to kind of hang out right there in the center. Sew through your next set of 5, going through those first 4 beads and exiting between the 4th and the 5th bead. Sometimes if you need to, you can push the whole way over through all 5 and then just back out through the 1 bead if you need to. We're going to then proceed to add 3 more of our gold beads again. And in that same fashion then, go in between 1 and 2 there. Force your needle in there, and then straight through to the very end. What that's always doing is putting those 3 seed beads right next to the 3 in the middle of that row of 5. Tuck those in kind of towards the center and give a little tight pull. You can see then those 2 sets of 3 are kind of hanging out there. We're going to proceed with 2 more. Putting your needle in through the next set, coming out between the 4th and 5th bead. Adding our 3 gold beads on. And then again through beads 2 through 5. Once you're out that 5th bead, same deal. Sew through beads 1 and 4. 1 through 4 rather. Add 3 more. Oops. And then sew through beads 1 or 2 through 5. And you'll have an easier time than I am here getting between those beads because it's hard to do here with the filming apparatus. All right. So once we have all of our beads in place, then that creates a little bezel set here that's almost to the tip of that chaton. So you can see the chaton still poking out just the tiniest little bit, but I have that grouping there then of my 3 beads that sit on top of the 5, which is downgrading it to get that princess cut look with the beads really sitting up. To add our next beads in order to kind of create our bezel around our finding here, my thread and needle are going to come being out that group of 4 there. I'm actually going to take it back through that 5th bead here. So that way I'm coming out my 4th bead. Once I'm then between beads 4 and 5, I'm going to go up to my newly created row of 3 and sew through that entire row of 3 there, and then I'm coming out. Just like we did where we added kind of our pyramid peak here of 7, we're going to add another 5 beads here on top of these 3. I'll do this in the pink color so that we can see the transition of the different colors. So I'm going to now pick up 5 beads. So back through my set of 3 that I'm coming out of in a round. Sew through my next set of 3. which will pull those original gold ones in closer, and add 5 more. Again, back through those gold beads that your thread is coming out of in a circle to kind of push those beads off to the side. Again, through that next group of gold 3s. Add 5 more of your pink. Back through those 3. So you're just repeating it 4 times. Now we'll sew into the last gold set here and add our last grouping of our 5 beads. Back through those last 3 golds. And what I want to happen is I want to go and connect to that first grouping of my 3 golds, because right now all the golds we've actually sewed through and kind of connected them, except for that first and that last one. So I'm also going to sew through after I come out of those last 3 golds. You can see that opening right here. Sew through that first set of your gold seed beads from the previous row. When you pull those in, then that pulls those gold beads closer, and you can see I have almost another little flower effect going on, and that gives me a chance to have an opening for my pad post to sit inside. So after we're exiting that group of 3 there, we're going to get ready to add our pad post in. And the pad post is going to sit right on top of that group of 3 seed beads that we added in that gold grouping of 3. And just like we did to create the point on the top of the princess earring, we're going to be basically connecting and coming out that 3rd bead, which is the top of the triangle of the pink beads that we added. So we're going to come out that 3rd bead. And as we were doing the top, the front of the earring, we added in extra beads in between. Here in the back, we're just going to be seaming around our finding. So I'm going to pick up the 3rd bead of each little triangle there, which, because we added a group of 5, the 3rd bead is always going to be the top bead, which creates then that distinctive triangle effect. So I'm sewing around the top of all those 3. You can see the thread kind of just hanging out there right now. And I've gotten through all 4 of the beads. And I want to have that last stitch line connecting back to the first bead in my rotation. You can see I'm not pulling tight yet, just like we did with the Chaton, because we're going to open this back up, slide in our finding, and now we're going to pull tight. You can see that closes up perfectly right around that finding. The cool thing with these earrings, because we're building up the back around those pad posts, you don't have any glue, so you're not risking that it's going to come undone because they're actually sewn in. I'm going around that center grouping of 4 beads again, because I want to make sure that it's nice and secure around that post. After sewing through all those, give a nice tight pull, and that puts it in so there's a seamless line, and you can't even see the pad post kind of hanging out in there. To get back to the starter connector thread there, I'm going to sew down the line of one of my beads here along the side, that group of 5. I'm sewing down 2 of those beads. And you can see there's a fair amount of space here that's open. What I did on the previous set is actually added a seed bead in there just to kind of hide and mask all those groupings. So to do that, my bead is coming out of one of those groupings of 5, coming out of the last pink. I'm going to sew through my 3 gold beads, and as I exit the 3 beads, I'm going to add another gold at each little corner. So each of my 4 corners there, I'll add another gold bead and then sew through to the next group of 3. Add another gold bead, sew through the next group of 3. And what this is doing is really kind of masking then that opening of the thread where you can see where we were adding in our little triangles. Once I have those 4 beads added in, I'm going to do the same thing with my pink beads. And it'll get a little bit tight. This is why we're using a 12 needle. And you'll have to do a little pushing and pulling. If you want to, you can also use some KO thread. It's a little bit finer. And now I have those groups of 4 beads there right on the corners. And if you want to, you can add in your pink beads or you can keep it without. That's up to you. But I'm going to go right along these pink beads then here. Wiggle my needle through. And you can add in those pink to hide the green. Or simply, like I'm going to do here, because you really don't see that much of the thread, I'm just going to go in here, take the 2 ends together because they're right at their connection point, and simply tie a knot. Tying a nice square knot right over left, left over right, or switching hands. And then you're just going to go in with your thread burner. If you want a little bit of super new glue, you can do that too. I'm just going right in here with my thread burner, and I'm going to burn down my edges. Burn the extra thread off, and then simply burn those thread ends down to create a little balling effect. That way the knot will not come apart. And there you have one of your princess earrings completed. I'm going to go ahead and create my second of my little princess post here by adding in the next chaton in the same fashion, going from my groups of 5 to my peak of 7, and then my 3. Then coming down to the base, adding in my groups of 3 of my 15-ohs, and then my group of 5 again here to the top, and seaming around to get our second one of our little crystal vitrail there, the vitrail medium of my little pad posts on, and we'll get our second of our earrings completed. Now I've completed the second one of the princess post here, and you can see the first versus the second. When I'm off screen, I'm able to get a lot tighter with that stitch, and you see a lot less of your thread. So you guys will be able to do that too, since you won't be under a small little 3-inch area to record in. But the really cool thing with these princess earrings is you can make tons of them. They're really quick to make. They only use about 2 feet of thread each. You get that 4 feet of thread. You got one, you get the other one done. And I've been wearing my set a lot. I think I'll wear the pink set a lot too. And you can see the fun kind of look of these posts, especially this time of the year. The posts are nice not to have too many dangles on. I wore these to the beach the other day as well. Looks good with a bathing suit. So you have the funness of working with those fun chatons, nice and quick, adding the pad posts, and you have that nice security in, that it's nice and tight along the back, not glued onto the back of it, and kind of creating that setting for that high point of the chaton along the back. If you do need any of the materials to make these fun princess earrings here, these princess posts, you can go back to the beginning of the video to the little drop down menu, or underneath the video there's always a description of kind of show more, and that's the details of the video. You click that show more and it'll give links if you need any of the 15s or the chatons to create these fun pretty little princess earrings. You can also change up the look by adding in different counts, connecting them at different points as well. So take this video, and I love to see what you guys do with it and the variations that you make on it as well. If you want to stay connected with us a little bit more, you can also join our Facebook group for beading and jewelry making, interact with us as well as other customers and creators and designers, see what they make, they come up with, help answer questions, as well as ask your own questions and kind of interact more with us as well. So if you get a chance, have fun making these little princess post earrings here using the fun little chatons. Also, you can subscribe to this YouTube channel so you get regular updates for videos like this, as well as others that we post if you're interested. Thanks so much for watching, everyone, and as always, have fun creating the little princess post earrings.